The objective of this metric is to provide means for checking that the requirement specification is aligned with the predefined model. The results of the metric will show if there are requirements in the spec that are not matching specific relationships in the model, thus providing the corresponding quantitative value for this calculation. At the end, if the requirement spec is not fully covering the relationships in the model, a medium or low quality level value will be computed and an alert could be generated. In order to use this metric, at least two elements must be configured before it is used. Which models will be compared with the requirement spec, and which requirement patterns will be used for analyzing the requirements with. These patterns are necessary because, as we see in the slide, we will compare the relationships found in the models with the relationships extracted from the requirements through the patterns. This metric computes its value calculating the ratio between the number of relationships found in the selected models which are not found in the spec and all the relationships found in the selected models. The returned result is a number between 0 and 1 representing the completeness coverage ratio. 0 means that nothing in the models is missing in the spec. In other words, that everything represented in the models has been found in the requirement specification. On the contrary, a value of 1 means that everything represented in the models is missing in the requirement specification. Let me just paint a brief scene about the theoretical issues. Even if V&V is a well-understood principle within systems engineering practitioners, it shouldn't be a problem to remark that these processes are usually coupled with the existing system. But V&V should not only be understood as system against requirement processes. Indeed, designs and requirements must be V&V'd as well. In this context, to automate somehow that the requirement specification properly covers relevant information about models, or even the contrary, is a must. This metric within the requirements quality analyzer attempts to solve this problem. Important. In this version of RQA, the models must be stored in the RQA's knowledge base. For example, if the requirement specification is formed by the following requirements, feel free to stop the video to read them. And the model to be compared with is a UML-SysML sequence diagram with 11 transitions between 6 objects, the matching process will connect a requirement with a transition, performing the whole operation for the spec and the model. As the spec only covers 5 of the 11 transitions, the incompleteness result will be 54.55%. The requirement specification is a 55% incomplete compared with the model. Let us work a little bit now with the tools to see how to configure, run, and check the results. Remember that we have to configure the metric with at least 2 different elements. The model that we want to check, and the patterns, requirement patterns, that we want to apply to the requirements in order to extract relationships. Okay, it's not the goal of this video to show you how to include models inside our database, but at least I'm going to show you that we do it with Knowledge Manager, and the way to store those models is in the conceptual model, in the system conceptual model. Here at the hierarchies, you can create and define your models connected with terms. So in our case, the model is the dynamics of an electrical bicycle, and of course it's the electrical power system. So if you click here in the electrical power system and check here in models, you can at least see what is the model that we have stored. So for you to know only that when we configure the metric, we would have to point to the electrical power system element within the product breakdown structure. This is the one that has the model. It is here. So let's go to RQA. This is RQA, and the first thing I'm going to show you is the requirement specification. It is exactly the same one that we were having described in the slides with these 6 requirements. And what we are going to do is first configure a new metric. So we go to workbook configuration. Once we have selected, sorry about that, before we have to select which is the module or the book in that case that we are going to work with. So we select this, and then we go to workgroup configuration and completeness. Add new metric, and here you get all those metrics that we have, the typology of the metrics, because then you can instantiate several of them. Models content coverage, let's give them a name, for instance, dynamics completeness. You can put some rationale around it, make it enable or disable. You can allow this metric to be running on the fly, to run on RQA immediately, to be calculated immediately. And the first thing you see here is the parameters of the configuration of a filter within the requirements management system. So you can filter those requirements that will be applied to this metric based on attribute values. This is not relevant for us now. So in this red ball here is where we check and assign the model to be controlled. So when it is red, it means that it is not assigned. If you click here, you define here the breakdown view that you would like. We want the composition view, which is the PBS. And when you click in this button, you get here the breakdown structure that we had in Knowledge Manager. If you remember, the electrical power system was the model that we want to check. So you can see here that this model is the one that we are going to check. We are selecting it here just by clicking in the electrical power system, accept, and then you see that we have extracted those relationships here. So now we are done. In this side, the final configuration element is to define which are the patterns that are going to be applied to the requirement specification in order to generate those relationships that will be compared with the relationship that we have here in the model. Okay, so let's do one. We have one particular group here already, which is sequence model. Perhaps you would like to see them. Patterns, pattern groups, for sequence model, and you get the send a message requirement pattern. So we can see it in a while. Send a message requirement, and I can show you very quickly. It's not the goal of this video to show you the pattern, but you can see that this is the pattern that we are going to ask for matching. Okay, let's go back to our QA, and now we have the model and the pattern. We accept, and now we have our metric ready. We can go back to the quality control. Then we have here the scoreboard, the scoreboard with the requirements. Click here in completeness, and let's go to the dynamics completeness. Right click, recalculate the quality. And we got a low quality. Let me tell you why. Because when we configured our metric, we have just said that between 0 to 0.2, which is 20%, is acceptable, between 20 and 50 is medium, and between over 50% of incompleteness is low. We can change that to whatever value we would like. We can say I want between 0 and 5%, for example. And then I would like 5%, from 5% up to 50% is medium, or whatever you would like. Okay, just go back, recalculate again, because we have changed the ranges, and we get this 55 with low value. Let's go and see why it is so low value. Okay, the first thing you see is that we got 54.55% of incompleteness, which mainly means that 6 relationships out of 11 in the model were not found in the requirement specification, while 5 were found. Remember the slides. Of course, you can go and see which are the relationships that were not found, and you will see where are they. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ma, you said 6. Yes, the important value is here. It says that there are 2 transitions between power control system and information display system that are not found. The specification has 1, but the model has 3. So we need 2 more. And so on. So this column shows you the transitions that were not found. So this is the number 6, besides that it implies 5 different ways of connecting objects. Okay, so you got 45% of okay, 55 bad. On the other side, in this right side of the results, you get how many requirements of the overall requirements in the specification after filtering are covered by this metric. So that means that 83% of the requirements are matched with the model, and only 16% are not matching with the model, which mainly means 1 requirement. So we have 1 requirement not generating any transition. This view is the opposite view. It says how incomplete is the metric. It tries to tell you how many transitions have been found in the specification that were not defined in the metric, in case you want to expand the model. Okay, in that case, a single transition has been produced in the specification that is not found in the metric. In the relationships coverage view, you can see all the relationships in the model. You get that there are 11 transitions. There it is. Okay, and you can see only those relationships, transitions that have not been found. Okay, you can see all the transitions that have been found, or you can see the transitions in the requirement specification that are not found in the model, or you can see other relationships generated in the requirement specification not of the type of the one in the model, or you can see all the relationships in the specification. You have also the view of the requirements. So that means that you can see the requirements that are being matching transitions in the model, the requirements that are generating transitions but not existing in the model, or requirements that are generating relationships but are not transitions. And then, of course, requirements not generating relationships that you can see here. Of course, you can always double click on the requirements to change them in order for you to produce modifications that would increase the value of this metric. But remember, if you change the requirement, you have to recalculate the whole metric, because this metric affects the whole specification. Okay. And finally, this is the filtering process. It tells you how many requirements of this specification matches with the filtering process. In that case, we didn't put any filter, so all the requirements are matching the filter. Of course, you can create your reports. And these reports produce the information that you see here in this format, as well as in Excel. You can always export this information down to Excel. Thank you very much. Goodbye.